Okay, let's jump right in. Welcome to our deep dive. Today, we're looking at some material, specifically an article or script about what you, as a tenant, can do if your landlord is ignoring a mold problem.
Yeah, and our goal here is pretty straightforward. We want to pull out the really core, actionable steps from this information.
Right, so you can understand exactly how to handle this kind of, well, frustrating and potentially unhealthy situation if you ever face it.
Think of it as us doing the homework, finding the key takeaways for you.
Exactly. We'll cover why mold is actually a serious issue, what your very first moves should be, how to escalate things if you have to, and where getting professional proof fits into all this.
It's about taking the practical advice embedded in the source and making it really clear and accessible.
Okay, so first things first. The material we reviewed makes a really crucial point right at the start. Mold. It's not just like an ugly spot on the wall or a bit of a smell.
No, it's explicitly called out as a health hazard, and that's really the foundation here.
And the source digs into why it's a hazard, right? The potential health effects.
It really does. It emphasizes that this isn't necessarily minor stuff. Mold exposure can trigger asthma attacks, worsen allergies, and in some cases lead to quite serious respiratory conditions if it's just left there.
And it spreads fast, doesn't it? The source mentioned something about that.
Yeah, it highlights how quickly mold can get out of control, especially in places that are warm and humid. It specifically used Houston as an example, a place where this can be a really common and fast-moving problem.
That makes sense. And this speed ties into the landlord's side of things.
Exactly, because the material points out that ignoring a known mold issue, that might actually mean the landlord is violating basic health and safety codes. The rules meant to ensure homes are safe to live in.
Okay, so you've spotted mold. You get that it's risky. Maybe you've even mentioned it, but nothing's happening. What's the absolute first practical step the information says you should take?
It sounds simple, but the source presents it as absolutely critical. Document everything.
Everything. Like what specifically?
Well, start with clear pictures of the mold. Good photos showing where it is, how much there is, and crucially, write down the date you first noticed it. That timeline is incredibly important.
Right, pinning it to a date. Makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's not just photos of the mold itself.
No, definitely not. The material stresses keeping copies of all your communication with the landlord about it. So texts, emails, even if you sent a formal letter, keep a copy. You need that record.
Because just calling them leaves no proof, essentially.
Precisely, which leads right into the next key action the source outlines. Put your complaint in writing. Even if you've already talked to them on the phone, follow up formally.
Okay, a written notice. What does the source say should actually be in that notice to make it count?
It needs to be specific. You should clearly request a professional mold inspection and, the necessary remediation, the cleanup.
Include the proof you gathered?
Yes, absolutely. Attach copies of your photos, reference your earlier communications, and very importantly, give them a reasonable deadline to respond or act. The source suggests something like 7 to 10 days is pretty standard.
And the tone. How should you phrase it?
The suggestion is polite, definitely, but firm. You're reporting a serious issue affecting your health and safety, and you're requesting specific action by a specific time. It's formal notice.
Okay, so you've done the documentation, sent the polite but firm letter with a deadline, and still, crickets.
Yeah.
The landlord isn't acting. What's next, according to the source material? Escalation time.
That's the next step outlined, yes, escalation. The primary route suggested is to contact your local code enforcement office or maybe the city's health department.
Bringing in the officials, basically.
Right, an official third party.
And why does the source say that's often effective?
Well, because, as the information points out, landlords in most places, and again, Houston is mentioned specifically, have a legal requirement to provide a safe, habitable place to live. It's often part of the lease agreement or city ordinances.
And mold, especially significant mold, can directly violate that habitable requirement.
Exactly. It can make the place legally uninhabitable. Plus, the source notes this could also violate state-level landlord-tenant laws or specific public health rules. It bumps the issue up from just a disagreement to a potential compliance problem for the landlord.
So, if code enforcement comes out, confirms the problem, what happens then?
The material indicates they can then issue orders compelling the landlord to fix it. They might get a deadline, face potential fines, or other penalties if they still don't act. It definitely shifts the leverage.
Now, besides going to the city, the information brings up another tool, getting your own proof, hiring an independent inspector.
Yes, that's presented as another powerful option, hiring your own certified mold inspector.
Okay, but why do that if you can see the mold and you've already reported it? What's the extra value?
The key value, as highlighted in the source, is the certified report you get from them.
Ah, the official report. And these reports are described as
Yeah. As being clear, objective, scientifically based, and importantly, credible evidence.
evidence you could use where?
Well, the source lists several situations. If things escalate and you need to take legal action, for instance, or if you're trying to legally break your lease because the mold makes the place unsafe, or even just presenting your case more strongly to the authorities like code enforcement.
And there's a practical angle too, isn't there? Sometimes just having that report changes things.
Yeah, the material makes that point. Sometimes simply showing the landlord that professional certified report from an independent expert is enough. It kind of cuts through any denial or downplaying and makes them realize they need to deal with it seriously and quickly.
It removes the ambiguity.
Exactly. It presents undeniable facts. The source even gives a specific example, just as an illustration, mentioning a service called Mold Testing Houston, their website moldtesting-houston.com, and their phone number 832-409-2125, as the kind of professional help you could seek out for this certified testing.
So if we weave all these threads together, the careful documenting, the formal written complaints, calling in officials if needed, getting that independent professional proof, what's the main takeaway message from this source for tenants dealing with this?
I think the core message is really about empowerment. It's saying, you are not stuck. You don't just have to put up with living in mold, worrying about your health, while waiting, indefinitely for a landlord who isn't responding.
It's really a call to take control, use these structured steps.
Right. Document it meticulously, report it formally, and then if you need to, get it professionally tested and certified.
Knowing these steps, the ones laid out in the material we looked at, it really gives you agency, doesn't it? A clear path forward instead of just feeling helpless.
Absolutely. It's a process to follow, not just hoping things get better.
Looking back at this deep dive, it really highlights something interesting. Think about how those simple-sounding actions we discussed, putting things in writing, taking dated photos, maybe getting that certified report, how they fundamentally change the conversation.
Right.
You go from just making a verbal complaint, which can be easily ignored or forgotten, to actually building a solid evidence-based case. It creates a structure, a level of seriousness that just talking about it often can't achieve.
Yeah.
It really does shift the power dynamic.
It turns that understandable frustration into concrete, actionable steps. A much stronger position to be in.
Exactly. Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Yeah, hope this was helpful. Stay informed and know you have options.